Hello, welcome to the Mark Janard Show, the cybersecurity show. So there is this new Chinese phone malware, right, called Massistant that is capable of hacking any phone. In this video, I'm going to talk about what it is, how it works, provide real code examples of basically the breakdown of it, and how you can protect yourself. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We're going dark. So let's start off with what it is, right? So Massistant is a forensic malware tool developed by the Chinese company, Xiamen Meiko Pico. Hopefully I'm saying that right? It is primarily used by Chinese authorities for extracting large volumes of data from confiscated Android devices, right? So security experts have confirmed that travelers and residents in China are at risk and large, people who travel and people who are potentially might be in here as well, as this tool can access nearly all stored data on a seized smartphone. Now, the step-by-step process of how they hack the phones is the physical seizure of the device, right? Chinese authorities confiscate the phone, typically at border checkpoints during police stops or as a part of investigations. It could be right here too, right here. It's not always over there. Sometimes it's a little bit here too. So the device must be unlocked, right? Users are generally compelled to reveal passcodes or physically unlock the device itself. Then there's the connection to extraction hardware. So once in possession of the unlocked device, police connect it to a hardware system, right? This basically usually a desktop connected a tower, basically designed or created specifically for forensic data extraction. This process does not require remote hacking, zero-day exploits, or sophisticated attacks, since physical access has already been achieved. Now, in regards to installation and activation of Massistant, which is the next step, the authorities install the Massistant application onto the device directly. So this is often accompanied by the use of desktop software that fully orchestrates the extraction. No app store or no user authorization is involved. Here are the code components. Peter, please put that code on the screen so that they can nicely see how this thing works, right? Put that code on the screen, Peter. So you have auto-click, right? Here's basically some of the core components of the code. So auto-click, that's what automatically allows permissions. So it basically bypasses security apps, right? The notices, such as the MIUI Security Center, that uses Android accessibility services for automated, interaction. There's the data collector that gathers SMS call logs, GPS, Wi-Fi data, images, and audio files from the device storage. It uses Android APIs for content access. There's the app data parser that extracts database and cache files from third-party messaging apps, whether it's Signal, Telegram, etc. You have the USB broadcast receiver that listens to, for USB disconnect events and uninstalls the app automatically to cover any traces. And then the native util.so, which is a native library introduced in later versions, which allows connecting through the ADB via Wi-Fi and fetches additional files beyond standard Android permissions. Now, there's another code snippet I have for you, right? Peter, please put that on the screen for them. Very nicely, Peter, right? So Massistant connects via localhost for data transfer. The malware collects data, opens a TCP socket to localhost, which is forwarded to a connected forensic workstation, right? And streams the data without internet exfiltration. There is the stealth and persistent measures aspect of it. So Massistant shows minimal UI, which displays only a data collection in progress message if interrupted. So the auto uninstall receiver engages on USB removal, presumably to hide infection traces if the device is returned to its owner. Sometimes self-removal fails. So forum post report, have reported leftover app artifacts confirming malware activity. Now there are exfiltrated data types. Again, that's the SMS, the calls, the contacts, which use Android content providers, the images that are audio, which scans standard media directories, the chat app data, which reads app databases / the cache files, the GPS / the Wi-Fi location, which queries the system location services. Then there's the automated data harvesting, right? Massistant, or Massistant, whatever you want to call it, rapidly begins extracting a wide range of sensitive information, including messages, WhatsApp, right? Oh, encryption? Yeah, you thought. The location history and the GPS data, the audio recordings, the images and videos, the context and call logs, application data, etc. So the tool can bypass some forms of encryption as the phone is already unlocked. Now, the next step is the data transfer to forensic workstation. So harvested data transferred in real time, to the forensic workstation for analysis, right? The desktop component manages, stores, and organizes the extracted data for review by the authorities. Then one of the last steps is the aftermath and persistence. So in some, instances, persistent, hidden surveillance modules may be left installed on devices, allowing ongoing monitoring after basically the device is returned to its owner. So Massistant typically leaves visible evidence on the device. So it may appear as an app or can be detected by advanced diagnostic tools, meaning tech-savvy users might recognize and remove it after the fact. However, by that time, the user discovers the malware, their data has likely already been exfiltrated. Now, that's the process, how it works, what they do, etc. But one of the basically the most question is, how can you protect yourself? How can I protect ourselves from this malware, so our phones don't get hacked? So one of the things you want to do is encrypt your device, right? Your phone. So encrypting your phone is basically an essential step in safeguarding personal data and limiting the impact of malware. So encryption scrambles your data, ensuring it remains inaccessible without your passcode or key, even if malware gains access to your device. iPhone has encryption as well. What you can do, most iPhones are, encrypted by default, but encryption is only active when a passcode is set. Now, in order to enable encryption on your iPhone, I'm going to go a little bit on your Android later, is you have to open the settings, go to Face ID and passcode or Touch ID and passcode on older models, set a passcode if you haven't already. Now, this is optional, but not optional. Enable the Face ID or Touch ID for added security. So to check if encryption is enabled, scroll to the bottom of the passcode settings page. You should see data protection is enabled. This basically means your phone, your phone's encryption is active. Now, here's a pro tip. You can use basically an alphanumeric passcode for maximum security and set your device to require the passcode immediately when locked. That's Apple. Now, Android, for modern Android devices, whether it's 6.0 or later, typically you have encryption enabled by default, but you need a lock screen to set up. So the way you can enable encryption on Android is to open the settings, go to security, which may also be labeled privacy or biometrics and security. Select screen lock or lock screen and set up a PIN or password or pattern, right? That's the PIN/password is more secure than a pattern, right? Look for encrypt device or encryption and credentials and follow on-screen instructions if encryption is not already enabled. Now, keep this in mind, on some devices, you have to go to settings, then storage, and then the encrypt device. Plug your phone during the process as it can take time and may basically restart the device multiple times. Now, from a physical standpoint, during travel, avoid handing your device, your phone. If possible, do not hand over your unlocked phone to authorities. Legally, in many cases, you may be forced to do so. It's, then you have to do it, but it's vital to weigh the legal consequences for non-compliance. Then observe the device's handling, right? If authorities take your phone out of sight, assume it may have been accessed or tampered with. So limit unlocked interactions, right? Never unlock your phone for inspection unless absolutely required. Now, if you are in that boat where it has happened and you have potential exposure, you want to check for unknown apps or files. So after the device is returned, look for recently installed applications or unfamiliar files. Then you have to perform a factory reset. So the most reliable way to remove unknown malware is to wipe the device completely and reinstall the operating system from trusted sources. Then you have to change your passwords, right? Reset all account passwords after returning from travel, especially if your device was taken or handled by the authorities. You have to monitor for suspicious activity. So check your accounts for unauthorized access or unusual behavior in the weeks following the possible exposure, right? You have to, it might be a good thing to also request technical help. So use Android Debug Bridge, which is ADB, or security software to scan for or remove suspicious apps if you have technical expertise. Now, some notes to keep in mind. Massistant cannot be installed remotely, right? It requires physical access and device unlock. Once it's installed, the damage is already done, as the extraction is rapid and data cannot be reliably recalled. So authorities are empowered by law in many jurisdictions around the world to inspect devices without a warrant, especially at borders, okay? So these are some things you want to keep in mind as you're moving, navigating, right? So that's basically how they can hack phones, you know, these malware, and that's how to protect yourself. So that's what I have for you today. Please take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button and the like button. If you appreciate this video and you want more videos like this, please let me know that by hitting that subscribe button and the like button right now. I appreciate your viewership. Stay safe. See you in the next video.